AV in your ears. That's Ambush V, giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my boy Steve, Fascination Street. You already know. Let's get it. When you whip in the Fascination Street, what do you...
Hey Streetwalkers, this is a throwback episode with guest Rance Howard. Rance has appeared in over 300 projects for film and television over his nearly 70-year career, and is the father of both Ron and Clint Howard. Rance first appeared on the show on December 31st, 2017, and it was such a compelling and fun episode that I decided it needed to be revisited. So enjoy this throwback episode, tell a friend, and thanks for listening. Last July, I was fortunate enough to get to go to Los Angeles and interview Clint Howard. During that interview, Clint suggested that I interview his father, Rance Howard, who I had been a fan of for quite some time. Clint talked to his dad and set it all up and worked it out so that I came over to the Howard residence where Ronnie and Clint grew up and interview their father, Rance Howard, at his own breakfast table. When Clint and I got to Rance's house, Rance opened the door and Clint walked in talking to his dad and just walked right past his dad talking and telling him a story. And I stood there on the front doorstep looking super confused, and so did Rance, frankly. So I introduced myself. I said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Howard. My name is Steve Owens." And he shook my hand and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Steve, I tell you what, it is my pleasure to meet you. I have heard so much about you from Clint that I feel like I already know you." At that point, Clint comes back and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been hanging out with you all week and I feel like you guys already know each other." Rance Howard sat down and let me interview him for somewhere around an hour and 45 minutes. In that hour and 45 minutes, he made me feel so welcome and like I belonged. He was a super nice guy. One of the nicest people I've ever had the chance to spend a couple of hours with, and he passed away recently. The intro this time will be me reading the Variety article that was written by Clint and Ron Howard about their father. At the end of the episode, I'm going to play different clips of different podcasts announcing the passing of Rance Howard. He was a great man, and he was a pleasure to talk to. He will be missed. I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Ron Howard and Clint Howard wrote an article for Variety about the passing of their dad. Ron and Clint Howard remember Dad Rance's enthusiasm, dignity, and fearlessness. Guest column by Ron Howard and Clint Howard. This appeared November 30th, 2015 on Variety. Quote, "Having Opie sass back to Andy might get a few laughs, but it's like every other sitcom and it hurts the father-son relationship." End quote. Aaron Rubin, Sheldon Leonard, and Andy Griffith were surprised. Where did this 32-year-old father of child actor Ronnie Howard find the nerve to chime in and pitch changes to their new CBS sitcom? Where did this guy come from? Our dad, Rance Howard, born Harold Beckenholt, November 17, 1928, was an Oklahoma farm boy who caught the acting bug at age 12, performing in a Christmas pageant in the town's one-room schoolhouse. A brief stint at the University of Oklahoma was highlighted when he met his first wife, Jean, at a scene study class. They married in Kentucky while touring as actors in a children's theater company and ultimately landed in New York. Dad's big break came when he was cast as Lindstrom in the original Broadway hit Mr. Roberts. Dad noticed his first son Ronnie loved being around rehearsals and had a natural aptitude for acting. Despite their reservations, Rance and Jean allowed him to work professionally, and Dad was suddenly juggling 2 acting careers. TV was moving the business to Los Angeles, so Dad packed us up and drove west. Ronnie began working on the Andy Griffith Show, and little brother Clint soon followed in the business. While flourishing as an actor and writer, penning episodes of The Flintstones, he and Mom faced their unique parenting challenges, making sure the boys lived as normal a life as possible. Park League sports was a valuable release that they made room for. Mom and Dad helped us navigate the tricky waters of the entertainment business like few parents have ever done. Not one day in either of our juvenile careers was a hired legal guardian used. Rance and Clint acted together in Gentle Ben, and a decade later he helped Ron launch his directing career by teaming with him to write Grand Theft Auto for Roger Corman. When our mom, Jean, developed heart disease, Dad devoted himself to caring for her. Sadly, he had to say goodbye after a 52-year journey. He met playwright Judy O'Sullivan and was blessed with a second loving marriage before Alzheimer's took her earlier this year. Dad joined SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, in 1949 and acted in over 140 films and 177 television shows. From Zane Grey Theater through Chinatown, Ed Wood, X-Files, Alexander Payne's Nebraska, and leads in Broken Memories and the upcoming Appleseed, Dad continued to evolve his craft. The effects of West Nile virus led to a rapid decline and ultimately heart failure. He wrapped his final acting role and was stricken 36 hours later. He was 89 when he passed. Oh yeah, back to 1960. After a lunchtime confab with the producers, Andy Griffith approached the 32-year-old father from Oklahoma to reply to his post-read-through comment. "You're right, Rance. Instead of the usual sitcom approach, we want to base the relationship between Andy and Opie on what we see with you and Ronnie. I'm glad you spoke up." The men shook hands and remained friends their entire lives. Dad faced life and the travails of the entertainment business with enthusiasm, dignity, and fearlessness. For that, we will be forever grateful. Ron Howard is an actor, Academy Award-winning filmmaker, and fellow actor Clint Howard's older brother. Their father, Rance Howard, died on November 25, 2017.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Okay.
Rance Howard, thank you very much for your time.
Steve, you're welcome. I'm happy you're here. Good to meet you. My son Clint has talked a lot about you.
Clint is a super nice guy. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to meet you. I don't know if you know this, but probably 6, maybe 8 weeks ago, I wrote you a letter, and in that letter, I basically just thanked you for raising such great kids. I mean, I haven't met Ron, but by all accounts, he's a great guy. But this guy over here, I've gotten to know him decently over the past year and a half or so, and he is just the sweetest guy. He picked me up from the airport. He let me stay at his house. I mean, yeah. I've hung out with him just about every day that I've been here, and he is just the nicest guy.
Well, Steve, I'm glad to hear that. It doesn't surprise me because I had lunch with him yesterday, and it made my day, He's a great guy just to hang out with.
He really is. I've had a lot of fun just hanging out with him, and I don't really know what I expected, but I'm not from here. I've never been here before, California, and all you hear about is, I guess you only really hear about it when somebody is an ass.
Yeah.
And I've never heard that about any of your clan.
Yeah.
And so, I just couldn't get over how nice this guy is. So thank you for doing a wonderful job raising this guy.
I appreciate that, Steve. And I had a wonderful wife who was Clint's mother. Mm-hmm. And she had a lot to do with raising both of those boys. So I appreciate all of the credit, and they are good guys. Her name was Jean, and Jean really deserves a lot of credit.
Now, she was an actress, right?
Yes, she was.
So at one point, I'm imagining all four of you were employed actors?
Yes, we were.
How difficult was it? I mean, that was before cell phones, before computers, really. Maybe even before answering machines. Like, how did y'all get all that accomplished?
Just surprisingly easy.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, I can't remember there ever being really a problem. Before we had answering machines, we had what they call an answering service. An agent would ring our number. The answering service would pick up and take the message. later, when any of us would come in, we'd call the message service and say, any messages? And if there was a message, we get the message. And so that was the least of our problems.
Wow. That's really cool. And you kept them in public school?
Yes, they went to, both boys, Clint and Ron, went to studio school when they were working. Now, studio school wasn't a formal building or anything.
It's like
studio school was
tutor?
a teacher.
Okay.
Teacher had to be accredited through the Los Angeles County or California State Teachers Association. So they were really good teachers,
Okay.
accredited teachers. They would come on the set. If the boys, they knew they were going to be working that day and would have a teacher, they would bring their assignments from public school, and teacher would help them with their assignments. Ron, he worked on the Andy Griffith Show he was on that show 8 years.
Was that filmed here?
Yeah, over in Hollywood.
Okay.
It was called the Desilu Cahuenga Studio
Okay.
on Cahuenga Boulevard between Melrose and Santa Monica. He had the same teacher for 8 years. So while the show was working, he went to the studio teacher. And then when the show went on hiatus for the season, Ron would go back to public school. And Clint would do the same thing.
Just out of curiosity, why did you keep them in public school versus a private school?
Well, my late wife, Jean, checked it out. She thought Burbank Public School was a good facility. And I don't know, first of all, public school is free. Private school is kind of expensive. And at that time, I would put any studio teacher up against any public school teacher or any private school teacher. And I'll bet you the public school teachers would be better, if not more, equipped to teach their students. So anyway, that was a long answer to a nice short question.
Shift gears a little bit. So you grew up on a farm, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I sure did. Some people call it a ranch.
Okay.
Ranch sounds a little romantic, but
Well, I think of ranches mostly cattle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Where was it?
Well, my youth was spent in 2 states, Kansas
Okay.
and Oklahoma.
Okay.
Well, I was born in Oklahoma to begin with. When I was about 2.5 years old, my parents sold that place, which was a farm, and bought a place up in Kansas, which actually I think you could safely say was a ranch because there a lot of cattle and horses. And I grew up on hard work, and I've never regretted it or resented it. I loved hard work as a child. I still, as a grown old man, I still like hard work. Still like to get out there and work up a sweat.
Well, that's kind of my next question is how do you think growing up on a farm, with hard work instilled in you, how do you think that has helped you in this line of business?
It's helped me tremendously. Reminds me of a story because growing up in that rural community and what I guess would be considered hard labor, shoveling a lot of wheat, a lot of grain, bucking alfalfa bales, prairie hay bales.
Cowboy.
A cowboy. I had horses. My first memory, really, I guess, is sitting on a horse either in front of my father or in front of my mother riding somewhere to do some cow work.
Really?
Yeah. And
so that memory, is that memory black and white? Because I know there wasn't color back then, right?
Well, let me say this. That memory is natural. Whatever it was just, that is just somehow or another embedded here.
Gotcha. I'm terrified of horses.
Are you?
I am, and there's a reason. I was about 9 years old, and I was visiting my grandparents who lived out in the country, and the people across the street from them had horses, and they were real good friends. And so I went over there, and they gave me a ride on a horse. They just put me up there, and the lady was just literally leading the horse around, sort of like you're on a pony ride, but it was a big horse. And they had a bright white pit bull named Ghost. And that pit bull jumped up into the window, started barking because it didn't know who I was, but it scared the horse, and the horse threw me, but that's not what scared me. What scared me is, remember how that lady was leading the horse? Well, that horse caved in her skull.
Wow.
She lived. She was never the same again. So I'm terrified of horses.
Well, I understand. It's frightening. And actually, horses can be gentle. They can even seem almost human at times. But horse's sanity is on a very fine line. And a horse is probably closer to crossing that line from being sane to insane than any mammal walking.
Gotcha.
A horse can be really dangerous. And that horse,
They're big, man. They're
he
a big
didn't
animal.
mean that lady
I
any.
know. And I'm sure
any
he
harm.
loved her. I mean,
I'm sure he did.
They had that
And-
horse for years before that, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that they had a relationship. But he just got spooked.
Just like I remember my mother. This was after I was out in the world, and so didn't witness any of this, but I heard about it. She had been out riding, and she was doing something, either trying to rope a cow or trying to drive a cow somewhere, and somehow or another, the horse slipped and fell, and she ended up, I don't know, having broken an arm and kind of a shoulder, and somehow she was unable to mount, but she could stand up and she could hold on to the saddle horn. And that was a pretty frisky horse that she was riding. That horse walked with her, hanging onto the saddle horn slowly, all the way about a mile or a mile and a half back home,
Wow.
helping her get home.
Well, that is super sweet.
It really is. It shows you how they can just be, as I said, almost human.
So you grew up on horses,
Yeah.
on farms and ranches. I think I interrupted you, and I don't think you got to finish how you think that growing up on a farm.
Oh, yes.
Informs
Oh,
your work
yes.
and
Well,
your work ethic.
it, you know, Steve, it taught me so much. It taught me what really hard work is, which reminds me of a story. There was a wonderful character actor who won an Academy Award named Ben Johnson.
Okay.
Ben Johnson and I went to the same little one-room country school, not together. He was about 10 years ahead of me.
Okay.
When
Back in
I got
Kansas?
there, Ben Johnson had been there. His dad was a world champion steer roper at one time.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, in a way, my family's fairly close to Ben's family. At one time, when my mother was I guess probably a teenager, she actually dated Ben Johnson's dad. Now, Ben Johnson's dad was a cowboy, and his name was also Ben Johnson.
Okay.
And Ben Johnson's dad and an uncle of mine, a guy named Coit, Uncle Coit, were good buddies. Together, they drove a Model T Ford and pulled a trailer hauling Ben's horse out to somewhere in either Wyoming or Montana, where Ben rode that horse and used him, I think his name might have been Ribbon, in that world championship roping. And that's where Ben Johnson's dad became world championship steer roper. And then eventually Ben grew up and became world champion calf roper. So anyway, Ben really knew what hard work was, and he came, out of the same Oklahoma dirt that I did. Anyway, Ben, as you know, became an actor and won an Academy Award, did a lot of movie work. And actors, I don't know if you know this, but they have a tendency to, as soon as they get their belly full and have a little money in their pocket, they start to complain a lot. They can bitch and moan and carry on about almost anything. The call was too early, or
My trailer was too small.
that's always a problem. Dressing room too small, just all kind of problems. And Ben would sit around and listen to this, and kind of smile. And once in a while he would speak up and say, "Boys, I'll tell you something about this acting business. It sure does beat working." And that's the way I feel about it. And it makes me, having had that experience, having worked, I'm talking about hard work. I don't know, for some reason, I liked it. I really liked it. I don't know whether it made me feel like I was growing into a man, or I'm not sure, but I just loved it. But I still do. I grew up loving hard work. So anyway, what did that do to me? It made me very tolerant of sometimes the long hours that actors have to put in, sometimes the bad weather that we face. Sometimes it can be really freezing. But if it's on the shooting schedule, and the camera will roll, you're out there, where it's cold. Or you're out there, if it's not raining and it's a rain scene, someone is spraying water on you, you are subjected to some of the worst possible conditions imaginable. And you tolerate it. You do it. Well, because I love it. There's nothing I would rather be doing. Right now, I'm enjoying sitting here talking to you because in a way, I'm performing. In a way, I know that somewhere there will be a public listening to this, and it's giving me an opportunity, and I love it. I love performing. So anyway, the hard work and those conditions and everything prepared me to really enjoy what I have to do to be an actor.
How old were you when you decided that this was what you wanted to be?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I can tell you, I was going to same little one-room country school that Ben Jonson had gone to, and I was in the 7th grade, and every year they put on what they called their Christmas program.
Okay.
Our nearest town was like 7 miles away, and they had a movie there probably on the weekends.
This would have been like the 40s?
This was probably either 40, 41.
Okay.
Yeah. The point I want to make, because there wasn't much entertainment. We didn't have television. We had a party line. We could listen on the telephone.
Listen to everybody else's phone calls?
Right. We had radio.
Okay.
There wasn't much entertainment. So anytime that the school did anything, put on any kind of little play or any kind of entertainment, half the county would flock in and pack themselves into this little one-room country school. And if they couldn't get in, they'd stand outside and look in the windows.
Wow.
So
that had to be intimidating for the child actors on the stage, right?
No, I don't think so. I can't speak for them.
Okay.
It wasn't for me. I don't know. There was something about, there's a crowd. There's a good crowd. They want to watch the show. So anyway, the teacher came to me and she said, now we're going to do this it's a 4-character play, 1 act, and we're going to do that. It's going to be part of our Christmas program. And you're going to play this part. She didn't say, would you, or will you, or are you interested? She said, you're going to play this part.
Back then, adults had a little more authority than they do now, and they didn't have to ask little kids if they wanted to do something.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Adults had lots of authority. And
they were respected a lot more.
A lot of adult teachers could really wield a paddle without any excuses or, I'm sorry, but I hate to do this, but,
Right, yeah. So your teacher said you're going to play this role.
Right. Okay, it was called, the name of the play was The Hired Man, and I was the hired man.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was the hired man. Yeah. Now,
the leading man so young.
Well, that's right. That's right. And my boss was the farmer, and his wife, then the 4th character in the play, was the farmer's niece, who was being sent out here from the big city to, apparently she had had some problems or something, and her mother had sent her out to stay with the farmer and perhaps help straighten her out a little bit. So the farmer was going to send me into town to meet her at the train and impress her and bring her home and to do all I could to make her comfortable and make her enjoy this farm life. He had lots of instructions. Of course, my character wasn't all that bright. I had a little trouble understanding exactly what the farmer wanted me to do.
Sure.
And he got a little frustrated from time to time trying to explain to me what I was supposed to do. Steve, I'm going to throw this in because some people might know what I'm talking about. Back when I was a kid, actually before I even started at school, they had tent shows that would come through town, and the tent shows were sometimes called medicine shows.
Okay.
They would sell medicine, cure-all elixirs or
Sure.
something, And then they would also do a play, do entertainment. Well, and these were also known as Toby shows. Toby shows.
Okay.
Because the leading character was funny, and he was almost a clown. Not quite in clown makeup, although he wore a fright wig with his hair sticking straight up, loud pants and a loud shirt, and definitely loud suspenders. holding his pants up, which sometimes fell down.
Sure.
So anyway, this play could almost have worked as a Toby show.
Really?
Yeah. I say that because some of your listeners may know what a Toby show is, and that would help them understand what I was doing.
Gotcha.
Okay. I went ahead and I learned the dialogue like the teacher had told me to. And we didn't have a lot of rehearsal. We had a little rehearsal. We didn't have a stage, just on a level floor. The stage was where the teacher usually kept her desk.
Okay.
And so when we did Christmas programs and things like that, we just moved the teacher's desk out of the way. And behind the teacher, kind of along the side, were blackboard. And that's where we did a lot of work on the blackboards. And then also at Christmas program, it wasn't just the play. Some of the students recited poetry. They sang Christmas songs, did monologues, things like that. There was a wire stretching from one wall to the other. And on this wire, the teacher had hung 2 bed sheets for curtains. So the curtains would close and open with the help of a curtain puller.
Sure.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into it.
So anyway, this was shortly before Christmas. Program opened. Finally came time for the play. And we got the stage quickly set up for the play, and curtains opened. I came out and said my first line of dialogue. Now, I wish I could remember what it was.
Man, I thought you were about to deliver it, and I was going to freak out.
I cannot remember, but I came out and said it, and the audience laughed, gave me a good hearty laugh. Now, I hadn't had any really acting experience before, and I kind of waited for the laugh to kind of subside, and pretty soon I said something else and got another laugh. Now, there is a thing that happens sometimes to some, doesn't happen to all actors. Happens to me sometimes.
Still?
Yes, still happens sometimes when I'm really lucky. It's kind of a transference. When I cease being myself and become the character I'm playing. It's like I have suddenly stepped into that character's skin, and I'm that character. And when that happens, I don't have to worry about dialogue. The dialogue is all right there. I can do things. I can take a drink of water.
As the character?
As a character. And everything I do, I do as a character. Now, I don't change the blocking or the staging. I change it maybe just a little bit to make it really natural, you know. Maybe instead of just sitting in a chair, I might sit straddle a chair or something like that. Just something really, really natural that a person would normally do. Also, when that happens, when that transfer takes place, it's kind of a jolt. It's hard to describe.
Is it like energy?
It's energy, but it's a feeling that you get. Kind of almost, in a way, inner strength. Sometimes it's almost like orgasmic.
Okay.
That kind of a thing, you know, kind of a release when suddenly you're so free. And doing this play, memorizing this, it's not a responsibility. You're suddenly having fun. And anyway, that happened to me. And God, the audience, they applauded and laughed.
And there was people peeking in the windows?
People outside looking in the windows. The place was absolutely packed. And of course, laughter is infectious. When something is funny and some people start laughing, they can hardly stop. Well, Steve, that was a terrific 10 or 15 minutes in my life.
So that was the moment you knew? So you've known since 7th grade what you wanted to do?
Exactly. When it was over and finally the whole program was over and, you know, people were standing around and guys were coming up, men, neighbors, some I hardly knew and some I didn't know, slapping me on the back, patting me on the head, say, "You're a mighty fine chore boy."
Oh,
well,
that is fantastic.
Yeah, the compliments. It was so just fantastic. I'd never felt so exhilarated in my life. It was like I was up on cloud 9. So I came home and finally fell asleep thinking about it. I woke up in the morning thinking about it. Suddenly it came to me, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be an actor. I want to feel that. I want to do that. And
when I was in 7th grade, I didn't know what I wanted for breakfast, and you knew what you wanted to do for the rest of your life.
I found out I found out that night. I mean,
That's amazing.
yeah, it just happened to me. And so, Steve, from that day forward, I'm still trying to do that. And sometimes I really succeed, and it's a great kick. It's harder to feel that jolt, that orgasmic thing I was talking about on camera. Sometimes you can. But in a play where you're doing, and you've got other characters and everything, it sort of maybe lends itself to the feeling or the build-up that you get from having just learned the dialogue and have done a few rehearsals and are now performing. I still get it from time to time.
It's got to be harder when you're in front of a camera, because if you're on stage, you're in that character's shoes for an hour, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
But when you're in front of a camera, you're in front of the camera for 10 minutes at a time.
That's right. Less, usually,
So that makes sense.
Yeah. It's right. But I still succeed in feeling that sometimes. When I do, it makes my day.
That's awesome. So you're in 7th grade and you say, I want to go be in movies and TV or whatever. Were you going to California or were you going to New York?
Well, I didn't know about New York. I assumed it would be California because movies were made in California.
Okay.
So I continued to do all of the little skits and everything that the high school would have for me that I could, I took a speech class. Still, I was bent on doing this. So we were approaching graduation from high school. Kids began to think about and talk about what they were going to do when they finished high school. Some were going to go into college. Some had an idea of getting a job somewhere. That you begin to be concerned about that. I say this in all modesty. I was a hell of a cowboy. I could really ride, and I could see guys on the screen, like, no offense to old Gene Autry or old Roy Rogers or old Tex Ritter, but those guys were not great cowboys.
Even Tex Ritter.
Even Tex Ritter.
Yeah, right.
They were okay, but they didn't look all that good on a horse,
Gotcha. They didn't look natural.
They didn't quite look natural. Some of them could kind of pass. So I knew that if I could get out to Hollywood with my horse, and some of those movie people would see me, they would hire me immediately to be a movie star, riding my horse.
Well, how were you going to get your horse to California?
I was going to ride him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, I was pretty naive and maybe not that bright, but that's what I thought I'd do. I thought I could ride my horse out to Hollywood. And I started telling, all my buddies and friends and, everybody that, well, what I was going to do was go out and ride out to Hollywood on my horse, and I was going to become a movie star. Well, one day the high school principal called me in. We talked a little bit. He seemed friendly. Didn't seem to have a problem on his mind. Finally said, what's this I hear about you going to ride out to Hollywood? And I said, yes, sir. And I told him my whole plan. And he said, well, he says, that's a pretty good plan. You could probably do that. He said, you know what I would suggest? He says, I would suggest that before you go to Hollywood, you go down to the University of Oklahoma, and they have a drama school down there. Enroll in the drama school and learn something about acting. And so when you get to Hollywood and get in front of a camera, you'll have some idea what to do. And he said, I think that would be my advice to you. And I said, well, thank you very much, sir. And checked out everything he said. Yes, they had a good drama school. I talked to my folks. My dad, he gave me the horse laugh. He thought that's the funniest thing he ever heard of.
Going to school or riding to college?
Riding.
Oh, okay.
He thought that was ridiculous. And thought if I was going to go to school to learn something, I ought to go there. He said I could make a hell of a veterinarian or something like that. But,
learn something useful.
Useful, absolutely.
Gotcha. Practical.
Practical. But the idea of me being a movie star, ho, 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 ho. In fact, he thought it was so funny. Sometimes we'd be driving down the road and a neighbor would be coming the other way, and he'd wave the neighbor down and say, hey, Charlie, how you doing? Okay, how about you? Oh, pretty good. Guess what this feller wants to be? He wants to be a movie star. Oh. And, of course, I guess a good laugh from Charlie, the neighbor, too,
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, went down there and enrolled in the drama school at the University of Oklahoma. And I began to learn about New York, about Broadway, about real plays, where a legitimate play would run for maybe from 2 or 3 years. Opened up a whole new thing. I hadn't even hardly heard of New York, much less Broadway and Broadway plays. So, and I started reading plays, and at OU I was acting in plays. Suddenly I changed my idea from being a movie star to being a Broadway actor, a stage actor, and of course all the teachers and everything, they place great emphasis on stage acting.
Right.
That really the pure form, the true art, stage act. So I decided that I would go to New York.
So you're coming from this super tiny town with a one-room school, and you're going to go to the big city of New York. Were you terrified?
No. Now, let me fill in a little bit. I gained a lot of confidence in my ability as an actor to make a living in the business. Well, one time I had come home from college for, a weekend or Christmas vacation or something. My dad said, "Well, do you still think you could make it as an actor? Are you still sure? Are you still sure you could make it as an actor?" And I said, "Well, Dad."
Was this on the phone?
No, this was there at home.
I was just wondering if it was on the phone and half the town was listening on the party line, just laughing.
That would have been good, but I don't think so. I said, "Well, Dad, to tell you the truth, I am less certain that I will make it as an actor, but I am more determined than ever."
That's a good answer.
Yeah, he didn't hardly know how to take that. Well, I had friends at OU. I met a girl at OU who eventually became my wife.
How did you meet her?
Interesting question. One day, it was during some rehearsal, and out in the green room, I was out there, and there was this girl. Her name was Jean Frances Spiegel, and she really, really, really not only caught my eye, but caught my heart. She had just come into school. I hadn't had a chance to meet her, and I was just awe-stricken. Now, my friend Dennis Weaver.
Dennis Weaver, why does that name sound familiar?
Well, Dennis Weaver, you know who Dennis Weaver?
I do.
But Dennis Weaver, well, of course, I mean, he played Chester on Gunsmoke for 9 years, I think. And then he was in, wish I could think of it. He was in, what was that? He was in not Matlock. That was Andy Griffith.
Perry Mason?
What?
But was it Perry Mason or Columbo?
No, it was one of those, but it was, what? McLeod.
McLeod.
He played McLeod.
There it is.
That was Clint you just heard from.
Thanks, Clint.
You're welcome.
Anyway, and so he was well known as McLeod. He was there in the green room, and he probably maybe could see that I was kind of smitten by this beautiful red-headed girl. And I said, "Say, by the way, do you two know each other?" And I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "I don't either." And he said, "Well," and he introduced us. So we were introduced
by Dennis
Weaver.
So Dennis Weaver introduces you two. You two eventually get married, have children. If I'm correct, the guy who introduced you to your wife played your son's father? Was he on Gentle Ben?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, get right on out of town.
Yep.
That's a really cool circle.
Yeah. And another little curlicue in the circle is that in Gentle Ben, he played the game warden. I played the game warden's sidekick.
Yes,
a
you
character
did.
named Henry Boomhauer.
You wrestled some animals back then. You rolled around in the mud and
that's right, alligators and
you got busy.
Bears. And yes, I did.
Let me ask you this. I'm sure you hear this all the time about the bear, but was the little boy real?
The little boy?
Yeah, was the little boy real, or was that just a man in a little boy suit?
Oh, that was Clint.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I know people ask all the time about that damn bear.
Oh, well, Clint, he had a way with bears. When Clint went to audition for that, it was going to be a movie called Gentle Giant.
Okay.
And when Clint went to audition, he went out to a place where an animal compound where they had a lot of bears and a lot of other animals. Ivan Tors and some other guy owned this place in partnership. Clint went out to do his screen test with the bear.
Was it the same bear?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the interesting question.
They had a couple?
They had 4 bears.
Okay.
just anybody that knows Gentle Ben and is watching, they had the main bear, who was actually, his name was Bruno. His real name was Bruno. His brother's name was Smokey. They used Smokey when they needed to have a bear fight. When two bears needed to fight, it was Smokey fighting Bruno.
Okay.
And then they had another bear who liked to swim, and his name was Smokey. He was great in water. And then they had another bear named Buck, who was a little smaller than either one of the other bears, but he was fast. Anytime you saw the bear really racing through the jungle, it was Buck, because Buck could run like lightning.
That's funny.
So Clint was doing this, he had a long monologue where he's kind of hugging the bear and talking to him and just going on and on. Had about a half a page of dialogue, where he's talking. They knew they wanted to call the bear Ben at that time, and talking to Ben. Now, when a bear gets bored or gets restless, sometimes he's standing there and he starts slinging his head back and forth, kind of rocking on his front legs, swinging his head back and forth like that. And Clint is still hanging in there trying to do this monologue to the bear. And finally, now the bear wore a chain around his neck for a collar.
Okay.
Finally, Clint grabbed the bear on each side of his head, grabbed the chain around the bear's neck, and just looked him right in the eye and shook him like this and said, "You listen to me." And the bear stopped slinging his head. And Clint went ahead and finished his monologue. Well, I'll tell you, that won him the part, if nothing else did.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's tremendous.
And how old is he at this time? Like 7 or
about
6?
7.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. There were great animal trainers. They're really good. Monty Cox and Vern DeBoard and another guy who was great, and I can't remember him right now, another guy named Al Metz. They had control of the bear. The bear recognized that these guys were in control. Now, somehow or another, they could pass that control on to Clint. So when Clint is there doing a scene with the bear, talking with the bear recognizes that Clint is in control, because these guys have somehow passed this control on to Clint. And the bear recognizes it. He wouldn't do anything, to Clint that he wouldn't do to the handlers, the trainers.
That's amazing.
It is. So Clint, during the run of the television series, during the run of the movie too, Clint had control of the bear.
Wow. So you and Clint are in Florida filming this?
Right.
And Ron and Gene are here.
Ron is doing the Andy Griffith Show.
He's doing an Andy Griffith Show. And y'all did all of this without au pairs or babysitters or just y'all. Y'all didn't hire help.
That's right.
Even though you started off as the hired man,
right,
you didn't have hired men and women to help you do all this.
We didn't have hired people. No. When the kids were
I bet that's a big reason why they turned out so well.
Possibly.
Y'all were there.
Because they always had, they always had parents for security and guidance, and could be. Anyway, yes, but to answer your question, Clint and I ended up in Florida working on Gentle Ben, and Ron and Gene, they were here, and Ron was doing the Andy Griffith Show. Ivan tours, when Ivan wanted to sign Clint to do the series, I said, this is difficult because it breaks our family up, and I will be with Clint, and Gene will be in California with Ron. Ivan Torres was a very big-hearted, generous man. He said, I will make arrangements with an airline named National Airline.
Okay.
National Airline had nonstop flights from L.A. to Miami, Florida.
Wow.
He said, you will have airline tickets for weekend, for holidays, for any time either you and Clint or Gene and Ron want to change coasts. He says, you've got a ticket. So we flew back and forth quite a bit.
So he was a man of his word.
He was a man of his word, absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
Man, that's so awesome. I, during the course of the few days that I've been here, I've got, like I said, I got to hang out with Clint a bunch, and he's let me see some really cool things. I got to see some short films from some people and some short films from some other people, and I got to see this short film in my mind, is a Hollywood-produced home movie because it's your entire family. There's I want to say maybe it was a student film, maybe, of Ron's, but it's you, it's Ron, it's Gene, and it's Clint. And, like, I almost cried watching this movie. It was silent, and, I mean, it was a home movie filmed on a studio lot.
Was that a little movie called Deed of Daring Do?
You're riding a horse? Wait, there's one where you're riding a horse. It might not even be the same one. There's one where you're riding a horse. It's called Pain. The Pain.
Oh, I sang a song. I ride an old pain. I lead an old Dan. Yeah.
And then there was another one where you were a gunfighter against little Clint.
Yeah. That was Deed of Daring Do.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember we did, those were student films that Ron was doing. He had got an assignment in some class that he had, and he did Deed of Daring Do, and also he did Old Paint.
So how does that make you feel, I guess, as a dad, to be able to, it's a produced home movie of just your family? Like, how does that feel?
Well, actually,
On a studio lot.
yeah, Ron could get on the lot because at the time he was doing a television series called The Smith Family.
Okay.
With Henry Fonda. So to do Deed of Daring Do, he went to the production manager and asked if he could work on the back lot on the weekend. And the production manager said, sure, I can fix that. So it gave Ron access to the back lot. So we did that. I think we did that on Saturday. One Saturday we did that. And the curious thing about that film is it was done without any editing. The film came in those little Instamatic cameras in little cassettes.
Okay.
And you had to use the cassette. You couldn't break it open and edit it. You had to edit it in the camera as you shot it. So I didn't produce it. He did it. He sat down and figured out, he wrote the whole little scene, sit down and figured out, okay, if he needed 4 seconds to do this line, 4 seconds to do this scene, maybe 5 seconds, and he had it all timed and figured out. And he had his mother there with the stopwatch. He timed every scene in rehearsal before we shot it. So he worked that out. And I didn't produce it. Rod produced it.
Yeah, but it's still your home movie. Like, I want to call your dad and say, hey, not only did he make it, he's filming his home movies on studio lots. I mean, that's awesome. What do you think makes a successful actor? Like, how do you describe a successful actor?
Oh, I don't know, Steve.
Like, I know it's not awards and it's probably not recognition, but is it, just being able to pay your way based on the craft only, or?
All of those things are important. It's important to have, some people have more talent than others. Others have really natural talent. Talent is important. Your personality is important. Actors can ride way up the successful ladder on personality. They are just naturally charming. People love them, Some people have that. My dad used to call that pleasing personality.
Okay.
I can hear my dad say that. Pleasing personality. But to try to answer your question, I think you have to love the business. I think it helps if you don't have any pressure on you. Like, pressure is, if you're married and have 2 or 3 kids and you're trying to support your family and you really need to get this job. That puts a lot of pressure on an actor. And some people do it. Some people don't either recognize the pressure, or the pressure doesn't bother them, or they forget about it. When you're up there and you're actually in that zone I was talking about, that orgasmic zone,
Yeah.
You can do it. But you have to have great tenacity, great determination. And it's a combination of a lot of things. A lot of it is luck. A lot of actors become very successful. Luck.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into it.
Take Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was a cowboy out there working with his father. I was going to say his father's ranch, but I don't think they owned a ranch. I think they were working on some other big ranch. And somebody came out from Hollywood and bought a truckload of horses. And somehow or another, Ben got the job of traveling with the truckload of horses to Hollywood to see the horses were treated well, take care of the horses while they were being shipped out to Hollywood. Now, when Ben got out to Hollywood, unloaded the horses, and met the animal guy.
The animal wrangler?
Well, yeah, you can call him that. Wrangler. That's good. That's a good term. A guy named Fat Jones. Then, before Ben could turn around, he discovered Fat Jones had a daughter named Carolyn.
Not Fat Carolyn.
And Ben ended up marrying Carolyn and staying out in Hollywood. He became a stunt man. He was hired. Matter of fact, he was hired to double Henry Fonda sometimes.
Okay.
And before long, he was acting. He got first movie I ever saw him in was Mighty Joe Young. I think he had done things before that, but I saw Ben in Mighty Joe Young. So that was luck that Ben was able to get a job riding out to Hollywood to take care of the horses.
Do you think he manipulated himself into that job, or do you think it was really just random? Do you think he had a hand in it?
Good question. You know, I think it was an accident. I think that probably Ben's dad didn't want to go out to Hollywood on a truckload of horses.
Right.
And they probably didn't have anybody else handy that they would trust to go out there with a truckload of horses. And so I think Ben kind of fell into the job.
Very cool.
What did he do? Well, he grew up and he worked in a lot of movies. He won an Academy Award and he was a very successful actor.
So were you friends with him?
Yeah.
I think you were also friends. Tell me about your relationship with the Bad. Are you friends with the Bad from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Are you talking about Lee Van Cleef?
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Lee Van Cleef and I, we were both in a touring play called Mr. Roberts.
Okay.
That starred Henry Fonda. And Lee and I, we would stop in a town and play from 1 week to 8 weeks. We played some towns 8 weeks.
Okay.
And Lee had a family that he was supporting, and I had a wife. I didn't have any children. But we decided that we could get by a lot cheaper if we would just become sort of roommates and rent a cheap apartment when we got into a town, or a cheap room if we were just going to be there for a week or so. And so Lee and I roomed together for over a year, maybe almost a year and a half. And we got out to Hollywood, and we're suddenly piping in the next door neighbors, folks.
It's actually Clint. Clint's on the phone outside.
So anyway.
So you guys decided it'd be cheaper if y'all got an apartment?
Yes, yeah, and we were doing that. And we were good friends. We got to Hollywood, and somebody, I think an agent named Earl Kramer, who was probably Stanley Kramer's uncle,
oh, okay,
came to see Mr. Roberts and knew that they were going to do High Noon. So he recommended that they being Stanley Kramer and the director, meet Lee Van Cleef. And they met Lee. And of course, Lee had a great look for, a bad guy, ready to hire him. And somebody said, "Oh, by the way, Lee, can you ride?" And Lee said, "Oh, yeah, sure I can ride."
I have a saddle in my trunk.
At any rate, he got the part. Then he came to me and he said, "Hey, I got this part in High Noon, but I've got to know how to ride. Could you teach me to ride?" And I said, "Oh, sure."
So you taught Lee Van Cleef
So I taught Lee Van. Yeah, we went up here to a rental stable on Riverside Drive, rented a couple of horses, and started teaching Lee to ride. And when he started out, he was scared of horses. He was so tense, he was just wound tight and so tense. And I just finally got him to relax and loosen up. He got acquainted with his horse and taught him how to bridle a horse and how to saddle a horse. He was a good student. He caught on very fast. He became known as one of the best riders in Hollywood. Yeah.
Wow.
Lee Van Cleef.
You're welcome, Hollywood. So did you stay friends with him?
Yes, I did. Lee and I were friends. A Korean situation was going on. And that back in the days when they still had the draft.
Right.
And I got my draft notice. At that time, you could, if you wanted to avoid the draft, you could enlist in the Air Force, the Navy, or the Marines. And I decided that I'd been checking it out, and the Air Force people had told me that with my background as an actor, I've been acting professionally for over 3 years, that I could probably get into special services doing plays running service clubs, that sort of thing. And so I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. I was able to work in service clubs and produced a lot of plays, directed, spent 3 years, 11 months, 11 days happily.
Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So you and Lee stayed friends for...
Well, I got out of the Air Force. By the time I got out of the Air Force, Lee had become a star.
Now, how come he didn't get drafted?
He'd been in World War II.
Oh, okay.
See, he had been in the Navy. Matter of fact, he was on a subchaser.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, he had done his time in the Navy. Yeah, that's why Lee didn't get drafted. Matter of fact, when we were driving out to California, I stopped. Lee had moved he was living in Apple Valley, just like it's a little over 100 miles from Apple Valley to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so he and his family were living in Apple Valley. He was one of the first people I looked up when I got to California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Lee. And he said, I don't know how much I can help you, but he said, I'll make some suggestions. He helped me find an agent. Lee and I were friends, but we never worked together again.
Really?
Right. We almost did. He was going to play the bad guy, and I was going to play the good guy in a Western. Somehow, the producer either lost his funding or never had his funding to do it. And anyway, we never did that. But Lee and I were good friends up until he passed away. Matter of fact, I spoke at his eulogy.
You did?
Yeah.
That must have been tough.
It was. It was.
I read somewhere that he got into an accident. And
he did.
He couldn't drive. And you drove him, is what I heard.
No, I didn't really drive. He got in an accident. I don't quite know how it happened. He had been on location up in some place called Lone Pine, California, or something like that. His wife had driven up to hang out with him for a while or something. Anyway, they were driving his pickup and her car from Lone Pine back to California, back to Los Angeles. And I don't know, somehow, he had some kind of a serious accident, demolished his car, or his pickup. No, he was driving the car. Pat, his wife, was driving the pickup, and he demolished the car. And he was laid up for a while. I didn't drive him around. Pat, his wife, drove him around. And he could drive. Before very long, he was driving. He walked with a limp and stiff-legged for a while.
What's your favorite genre of film to be in?
That's a good question, and I can't really answer for Lee. I suspect he liked Western.
No, you.
Oh, me.
Yeah, you.
Oh, for me, it's a good question, too, because I don't have any preference. I love to work, whether it's some kind of a silly comedy or a war story or a Western. I can tell you this. Somebody who did some research on me wrote me a letter and said, I just want you to know that I've checked this out, and you have played more men of the cloth than any actor in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I've never checked it out, but I've played a lot of preachers, a lot of ministers, a lot of men of the cloth.
That's a cool little piece of trivia.
Yeah, it is. It kind of stuns me.
How long did it take you of being in the business before you stopped getting irritated about some of your scenes ending up on the cutting room floor?
That never irritates me.
Really?
No, because I recognize the benefit of film editing. If an editor looks at a film that I'm in and that it doesn't move the story or there's something wrong with it, he deletes it. And it makes me better. It only makes me stronger. I'm giving the editor quite a bit of credit for having that knowledge. But editors are very smart guys. And when they look at a film and when this scene stops telling the story, or there's something awkward about this scene, and they take it out, they only enhance my performance. So I've never felt ill or bad or angry at an editor for putting me on the floor.
You have the most optimistic perspective of just about anybody I've ever met.
Well, that's interesting you would say that, because I know I'm an optimist.
Oh, you're definitely an optimist. One of my favorite films that you were in was Nebraska.
Yes.
That was a powerful movie, and you were really great in that.
Thank you.
How did you come? Do you still have to audition?
Do I? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
Even though there's probably 47,000 hours of footage of you, you still have to audition?
I still have to audition. I love to audition. And I'll tell you why. When I audition, it gives me an opportunity to perform. When I audition, I am not auditioning. I am performing. If I have had just the scene to prepare for a little while, that I can come in and perform the scene at performance level. That's and I love it. Part of the reason I ceased being nervous or hating or being afraid of auditions, of going in on an interview, because it gives me the opportunity to come in and play, to do a scene. And it's just fantastic. That's why I like to do it. I'd rather audition than just have somebody give me the role.
That's optimism, folks. This guy is finding silver linings in everything. I don't want to take up all of your day. I do just have one more thing before I let you go. I'm sure it's super hacky that I did this, but I'm okay with that. I recently, this week, was introduced to what is probably going to be my telephone ringer now. It might be my favorite song I've heard in a really, really long time. So I got you a whatchamacallit.
Oh my gosh.
I got to hear that. Clint played it for me. And will you tell everybody who's listening what the hell I'm talking about?
He's talking about when Clint and I did a television series called Gentle Ben. Ivan Tors wanted to put out an album that would give Clint and I and Dennis Weber and Beth Brickell a chance to perform musically. I am not very musical, and Clint isn't very musical. I don't think Dennis was all that musical. Now, Beth, I don't know. Beth might be able to sing. But anyway, in the album was a song called Whatchamacallit. And I don't know if I can remember any of it or not, but it kind of goes like, well, I was walking along like a man can be when I looked up and what did I see? What did you see? It was a whatchamacallit. But a whatchamacallit can be anything you want it to be. It goes on like that.
That is wonderful. When I heard that, I just kept making him play it over and over and over and over again. I love that song. There is a little loophole in music rights with regards to podcasting where as long as you're reviewing a piece of music, you are allowed to play it. But I would love to have your permission, because you're the performer. Would it be okay if I played that song at the end of this podcast?
Sure.
Hey, Clint.
Yeah.
Can you come here for a second?
I don't think you have enough money to get me to try to hit a note.
How about if I give you a whatchamacallit?
Considering I am a former Kempster, once a Kempster, always a Kempster. You want us to try to take a whack at it?
That'd be fantastic.
I don't know, Dad. What do you think?
I don't know.
Well, you got to start, and I think maybe I might be able to feed you. At least we can get a couple, maybe the first verse in and maybe the chorus.
On whatchamacallit?
Yeah, whatchamacallit. And just, we're at a disadvantage because we're not with the good time people right now. Sure. And you can't really operate at your best if you're not with the good time people.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I was walking along like a man can be when I looked up and what did I see?
Looked like something I'd seen before, but I can't tell you what I just saw.
It was a whatchamacallit.
What's a whatchamacallit?
A whatchamacallit is plain to see, can be anything you want it to be.
Can be fire and brimstone, evil and hate, and change it all to love, and even change your fate. That's about it. I'm sorry.
So,
God, we were bad back then, and we're bad now.
We're still bad.
so I was asking your dad's permission as the performer on the song, if I could play the song after the podcast.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Also, there's one in there.
Thank you, guys.
If you is Don't Cry, Little Gator.
Oh, Dad's real solo. Really, seriously, Dad came this close to cracking Billboard Hot 100 country tunes.
Don't cry, little gator.
Drifted in the Everglades.
Oh, boy, that's about the keys you were hitting there, too.
Well, Mr. Howard, Rance, thank you very much.
Steve, it's
this
my pleasure.
opportunity.
You're great to talk with.
Well,
I really enjoyed talking with you.
thank you. It's an honor to meet you. As far as I'm concerned, you guys are Hollywood legends. Y'all are royalty in this town and in this industry, as far as I'm concerned. And I just really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you. I am pleased and honored that you believe that you think that way. And that's what I always strive for.
Well, you hit the mark. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, I was walking along like a man can be when I looked up, and what did I see? It looked like something I'd seen before, but I can't tell you just what I saw.
Can't you tell me what it was you saw?
Well, I'll try. I'll try to tell you what I saw.
Was it a bird?
Well, upon my word.
Was it a jet?
Well, do you want to bet?
Was it a red balloon drifting in the sky? What was it that caught your eye?
Yeah, what was it that caught your eye?
Well, I'll try. I'll try to tell you, caught my eye. It was a whatchamacallit.
A whatchamacallit?
Yeah, a whatchamacallit.
What's a whatchamacallit?
Well, a whatchamacallit is plain to see. Can be anything that you want it to be. Can be all those things that you've just said.
You mean a bird, a cat, a balloon that's red?
Yeah.
A bird, a jet, a balloon that's red. A whatchamacallit is like making a wish for a frog or a dog or a flying fish. Just open your eyes is all you gotta do, and a whatchamacallit will do the rest for you.
Yeah, open your eyes and be aware and kind, and whatchamacallit will open up your mind.
You mean a whatchamacallit can open up my mind?
Whatchamacallit is plain to see. Can be anything that you want it to be. Can take fire and brimstone, evil and hate, and change it all to love, and even change your fate.
To take fire and brimstone and evil and hate, and change it all to love, and even change my fate?
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit puts hope in your heart and makes a dream come true right from the start. So open up your eyes and be aware and kind, and a whatchamacallit can open up your mind.
You mean open my eyes and be aware and kind, and a whatchamacallit will open up my mind?
Yeah, whatchamacallit can open up your mind.
Open up my mind.
Yeah, open up your mind.
Yeah, open up your mind.
Open up my mind.
Yeah, open up your mind.
Yeah, whatchamacallit can open up your mind.
Open up my mind.
Yeah, open up your mind.
Yeah,
Open up your mind. Open up my mind.
Yeah, open up your mind.
The Adam Carolla Show.
Veteran Hollywood actor Rance Howard, father of director Ron Howard, actor Clint Howard, he died Saturday at the age of 89. Yeah.
Good old guy.
And in fact, Mike August told me that Clint and Rance were both being scheduled to come on the show. So that's very sad.
Yeah.
Ron Howard announced his father's death on Saturday afternoon. He praised his father for the ability to balance ambition with great personal integrity, saying, quote, a Depression-era farm boy, his passion for acting changed the course of our family's history. We miss and love you. Now, just to refresh your memory, Rance Howard's acting career spanned several decades since the 1950s. He appeared in a lot of Ron's films, including Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Splash, also How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Parenthood, Chinatown. He had quite a legacy.
Drew Carson podcast.
Rance Howard unfortunately sadly passed away this week, so this episode is dedicated to him, and everyone here at Terror Firmer Media's thoughts go out to his friends and family at this time.
The Fractured Frame podcast.
The father of director Ron Howard and actor Clint Howard passed away on November 25th. Rance Howard was 89. The elder Howard had a long and storied career spanning 60 years and appearing in many of Ron's films in minor roles, as well as movie and TV projects not directed by his son. In a tweet announcing his father's passing, Ron Howard said his father stood especially tall for his ability to balance ambition with great personal integrity. A Depression-era farm boy, his passion for acting changed the course of our family history. We love you and miss you, Dad.
Yeah, normally whenever I
60-year
think of Ron Howard, I think of his brother, but you don't even think about Rance. You
He's
know?
been in everything.
He's everything. Yeah, when you look at his itinerary and all of his nominations and awards he's got, and you're like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, yeah, Rance. I mean, if you look at his itinerary, Nebraska, Beautiful Mind. I mean, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
He was in the X-Files. He was on Battlestar Galactica. He's been in a lot of stuff. The fact that he had a 60-year career.
He was in and around.
So that probably is why Ron Howard is so normal for being a child actor and a teenage actor and a young adult actor, that he had the example of his father, who was just a hardworking guy who just happened to be an actor.
Exactly.
For Ron's long career, and obviously his father's much longer one, they are normal. And that doesn't
very, very normal.
That doesn't
Very
occur in
normal.
Hollywood very often.
Goober Says Hey podcast.
Rance Howard is obviously the father of director Ron Howard. Ron was on the Andy Griffith Show as Opie. Then he went on to be Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. And Rance is also the father to Clint Howard, who was Leon, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich boy, always offering people peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Hollywood Babylon podcast.
Rance Howard is a name you may or may not know, but he was a long-time character actor, worked forever, but probably better known for being a dad because he was the father of Clint Howard, another character actor, and of course Ron Howard, the movie director and longtime TV star.
He said that his dad, he put up a post when his dad passed away, said that, his dad was a farmer and was just
Kid from the
interested
Depression,
in acting, liked it and stuff, so would take bit parts. But that's what got Ron Howard into the business. And, Ron Howard's been in the business since he was a kid. It's a pretty amazing story. I always think of him as the guy from Ed Wood. He's the guy that's like, in the end, I want a big explosion.
Yeah. He was also in Gentle Ben, that series. Remember that?
Yeah.
About the bear, starring his son, Clint Howard, on that show. But he was in everything that Ron Howard directed. He was in Apollo 13 and Splash and Cocoon.
And Splash is the guy that's like, I want my cherries.
That's right. Here's a picture of Rance back in the early days on the set of the Andy Griffith Show with his son, Ronnie Howard at the time, and Clint Howard. But there's the three of them together. Passed away at the age of 89.
He was a fantastic actor.
Two Chairs No Waiting podcast.
Now, for those that don't know, Rance passed away just recently, passed away on the 25th. And granted, Rance was not on the show as a primary character very often on the Andy Griffith Show, but he definitely had a huge impact on all that is Mayberry. And he was just a good guy. Very nice guy as well. Rance Howard was born Harold Rance Breckenholt back on November the 17th, 1928. He is obviously he's an actor in film and television and the father of actor Clint Howard and filmmaker Ron Howard. He's the grandfather of actresses Bryce Dallas Howard and Paige Howard. His final film role was Jasper, an Alzheimer's disease-stricken father in the 2017 film Broken Memories. Ron actually commented on that role, saying that he thought it was one of the best pieces of work his dad had ever done. He was always spoken of so highly, and wow, he did a pretty good job raising his sons. They've turned out to be pretty good men. And in the world of Hollywood, I think that's saying an awful lot. So Rance Howard, we completely salute you. You will be missed, but you will not be forgotten here in Mayberry. Just know you're always right here in our hearts, and you'll live long in the town of Mayberry.
Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.